Good early afternoon. We're live. And after a week away, I am back for a Blue Plate special. I'm Andy Andrews. I'm your host today, and we're broadcasting, as I said, live from Wisdom Harbor Studios here at the Wharf in Orange Beach. You know, a lot of people pronounce it the Wharf, but if you'll notice the way it is spelled, the actual pronunciation is Wharf. So I would appreciate that when you're walking around in Orange Beach and people ask where you've been, I would suggest that you pronounce it correctly so that people can know how smart you are. So we've been down at the Wharf. So anyway, we're in the skyscraper here at the Wharf on the second floor, and we'd love to have you visit sometime. We have a museum. We have, well, you know, the hot tubs everybody's in today. You can't see it if you're at home, but if you could see in our studio, everybody in the studio is in the hot tubs today. And so there's no splashing, no splashing. Dina Kilpatrick, hey, glad you're here. Little M, Emily Isbell, hey, hey, hey. So glad you're here. Heather Olson in Utah. You know, Heather, I think of you when I think of snow. I don't know why, but I think it's like snowing. There. Les Dawson, hello. Eva Jean Hodge, good afternoon from cool but sunny Elkin, North Carolina. Sandy Atkins, good afternoon from El Salvador. What time is it in El Salvador? I'm just curious because it's like 12:17 here. Martin Simmons, Gomer says, hey. Hey to Gomer. You know, Leslie Ann Tarabella is here. Hey, Leslie Ann. Leslie Ann is one of our contributors with Wisdom Harbor. She's a best-selling author and kind of a little sister to me, you know. Yeah, every time I'm around Leslie Ann, I kind of feel like pinching her or something, you know, or pulling her hair. Was that Tammy? Did I see Tammy on there? Or are those maybe airs from Troy? Heather also says, do you think of snow often? Well, I'm thinking of it a lot this year. I'll tell you why in just a second. You haven't gotten much this year, at least compared to last year. Polly and I were with some friends in snow last week. Hey, Kevin Tim Parkins, the old man. Chris Gold, hello from Michigan. I bet it's snowing up there, or at least it's cold. We were in Wyoming, and we were in a frozen hell. Hello, Terry Lundy. Glad you're here. Donald Evelyn Perry from Belleville, Ontario, Canada. Let me say it again. Sue England from northern Minnesota, but you have no snow? What? Listen, I'm telling you, in Wyoming, they had snow. Reggie, Lady Love, hey, how are you doing? And it snowed in Nashville. I knew it snowed in Nashville. I was talking to Gabe Wicks this morning. He says it's snowing like crazy. Reggie Smith is the lead singer of the Gaither Vocal Band, by the way, and has the second best voice in his family. How about that? His wife's much better than he is. Sandy Atkins, you were on the same time zone in El Salvador? Okay. All right. Well, good. Emily, Little M, says your dad was also in Wyoming. Let me tell you something. We went to Jackson Hole, and Jackson Hole is great. Our friends have a house there, and they know the whole place. And Mike Stahlbomber, hello from Kansas. And so we went to Jackson Hole, and they took us to a place where you leave Jackson Hole, you drive about an hour and a half up, and there's an increasing amount of snow from this place. And so we were going to a lodge, and you get to a place where there is a parking area, and you can't go any farther. I mean, you can't you can't go any farther on wheels. Even if you've got like a 4-wheel drive, if you've got a Polaris, it don't matter. You can't go. And so they pick you up in a van that has tracks on it. And then you go for another 20 minutes up. And I didn't go outside a lot. You know, I loved it. It was beautiful. But I guess I'm not really a cold weather person, you know, because they were, what do you call when you ski and there's no hill? What is that called? I mean, it's like all work. It's like they're just skiing and there's no hill. And they do it in the Olympics.
Cross country.
What?
Cross country?
Cross country. Cross country skiing is, and our friends are great at it. And they're in such good shape. And now Polly rode on a snowmobile. You know, it's 10 degrees. It was 10 degrees when we left. It was 3. And the snow was up to your waist. I went ice fishing. You know, all my life, you know, I've got friends from the Great White North that have yacked about how great ice fishing was. And so I went ice fishing. They rode me in a snowmobile to ice fish, and I sat in a little tent with a hole about that big in the ice. And first thing I'm thinking is, how big a fish can you catch if the hole is that big, right? I mean, can't be that big a fish. But I asked, I said, how thick is the ice here? And they said 4 feet thick. So, okay, but we didn't catch anything. It was interesting. You know, you had these little bitty rods and you do this. It was interesting. But, you know, all the meals and we played games. We had a great time. I just had a great time inside. Okay, so Gina Christmas, hey, Ariane Robinson, how are you? You know, J.C. Buck from Mississippi. I want to start today. We've got a great show. Got some funny stuff. Got some semi-serious stuff. My shirt, by the way, is not from Sand
Dollar Lifestyles, the cornerstone
I
of the
couldn't
floor.
remember that. Sand Dollar Lifestyles is our clothing coordinator. But today we have the Books for Veterans t-shirt, which is if you buy a t-shirt, a book goes to the VA in your name. How about that? I wanted to talk to you today about saving money, and I've got a couple of takes on this. But first, there's kind of a semi-serious thing. I read an article by Jeffrey Tucker today, and I really like him. And he was talking about some stuff that my wife and I have talked about a lot in the past year. And I don't know if you guys are feeling this way, but our appliances in our house don't work nearly as well as they used to. I mean, our grandparents had better washing machines, better refrigerators, better dishwashers, better garbage disposals, better clothes dryers, better hot water heaters, better showers, and better freezers, and better toilets. I mean, you know, here in this area, people kind of measure time by hurricanes. And so, because especially when you have to get, you know, all new stuff after a hurricane. And so we got all new stuff after a hurricane, and everything's breaking. It's all breaking. I mean, we have had to get a new dishwasher, new oven, new washer and dryer, new ice maker, 2 new air conditioning units, and probably some more stuff. A new TV. And I'm not talking about because of the hurricane. I'm saying we got new ones after the hurricane and they've all fallen apart. Everything. I mean, this stuff used to last for decades. And now, if we're lucky, they last for a few years. And so Jeffrey Tucker wrote about this. The experiences that most people have today with appliances are truly awful. We have found it's nearly impossible to get this stuff repaired because almost nobody knows how to do it. And if they work on it, and if the appliances work at all, they don't really work well. And so in our own homes, we bump from machine to machine with frustration. The dishwasher will run for hours. I mean, we've got the thing, this dishwasher runs for 2 hours, and it's an expensive dishwasher. 2 hours, and the glasses are still spotty. Our clothes don't necessarily come out clean. These jeans that I've got on right here, I had a big stain. Well, right there. I had a big stain right there. And these have been washed 3 times, and there's my stain. It's still there. The showers dribble. Our toilets are forever being plunged. Do you guys remember growing up and plunging toilets? I don't remember that. I don't remember ever going anywhere and seeing a plunger beside the toilet. Now, everywhere you go has a plunger beside the toilet. The dryer, doesn't really dry. The ice maker, did I say we replaced an ice maker? Because we did. And the one we've got now is not working. We have to turn it on and off because it won't stop. So even finding normal light bulbs is an issue. And it's been a gradual change, but it's impossible to deny. But here's the thing. You can't blame the manufacturer. Jeffrey Evans says, and I agree, there is one reason that this is happening. It's the government regulations on energy use. They keep getting tighter and tighter year by year. And when they enact them, they'll say, okay, in 2030, we're going to, and so everybody goes, yeah, 2030, we can't, whatever. But we're supposed to use less energy and water every year. And using less energy and less water means systematically degrading the machines while raising their price. And it's a strange kind of central plan that's being imposed on us. The Department of Energy possesses extensive plans on how every appliance should be made and how much water and energy should be used. And each year, the answer is less. This has been going on for years, and it gets gradually worse every year. Congress does not approve these changes. These are edicts from a million different bureaucracies. And the offices and the people that are removing our freedoms and our way of life, we don't even know who they are. Last year, get this. Last year, the head of the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers told a congressional hearing, this is what he said: the reality of the laws of physics are that it requires some amount of energy and water for home appliances to actually work has got to be recognized. Now, that this would need to be said at all is kind of crazy, isn't it? That the head of the Home Appliance Manufacturing Association of America would have to tell Congress, we got to have some amount of energy and water to make these things work. Anyway, it's crazy that he had to say it. And yet this announcement of basic reality was like a stunner to them. And the idea in Washington has long been that the people have to be squeezed, that our conveniences have to be wrecked and our lifestyle degraded and our household functioning ruined by the bureaucracies in cooperation with the manufacturers. But the manufacturers don't have any choice. There's no questioning that basic postulate that the government is doing it. New standards are going into effect later this year, and they're guaranteed to make everything in your household worse. So, you think about it, well, maybe now's the time to buy stuff that you won't be able to buy next year if you can afford it. My rich friends say there's workarounds by spending enough money or buying things from other countries, and I really can't confirm that, but the models available on the floor of Home Depots and Lowe's and Walmart are increasingly pathetic. They look beautiful, but they just don't work. The regulators say that they're forcing technological improvements. And that don't make any sense. That they're forcing technological improvements? It's like saying you're making a runner faster by breaking his legs. You can't force technological improvements by taking away the stuff that makes it work. I mean, all they're really doing is putting up barriers to improvements and basic functioning. If there are improvements to be had, the manufacturers will find them, and they'll advertise them. They don't need to be forced to do anything. Even in the terms of energy use, consumers believed for a while that this or that model would really save on bills. But over time, people have figured it out. They realize that energy efficiency is not saving any money. It just doesn't work anymore. I mean, they get it to so low. There's no energy there, and it doesn't work. And so there's more going on here than just shoddy products. Jeffrey Tiger says that the degradation of our appliances speaks to much bigger themes concerning what we've always called the American way of life. People today don't really remember the optimism that came over America after World War II. There were new conveniences flooding into homes, all these wonderful new time-saving machines that seem to suggest that life could only get better. There's no more washing your clothes in tubs or scrubbing dishes in the sink or building fires or hanging up your clothes on clotheslines. I mean, now we have machines to do all that for us, and in exchange, we could use that time to read books or to play with the kids or to get to know our neighbors and build community. But once the regulators got in charge, they started dismantling the progress of the past. It was our toilets, then our shower heads, then washing machines and dishwashers and toasters and refrigerators, and then the de-civilization movement hit light bulbs and everything else electrical or mechanical in our houses. Today, the average apartment or home is not nearly as well functioning as it once was. What is the attitude on Capitol Hill, though? Well, the effort to take apart our appliances has increased, this time in the name of stopping global warming. And I got to say, that we live in an area where we can or should be able to grow citrus trees. And, we had some big ones because for years down here, we went years without it getting below freezing. And so our citrus trees were great. The past 2 years, we had days with it around 15 last year. It went down to 16 this year. And last year, we lost most of our citrus trees. Today, they're horribly damaged. I mean, if this global warming doesn't stop, we're going to freeze to death here. But how many crazy ambitions can the government have that only end in spreading more misery to us? I mean, wouldn't you like to keep your gas stove? Or at least know that there's another gas stove available if yours eventually breaks? So what can change this trajectory? We need the regulators. I think we need the regulators out of our homes. You know, manufacturers need to be free to make nice products for us, and we should be free to buy them or whatever level of product we want. And that goes for shower heads, toilets, hot water heaters, in addition to dryers and washers and all the other stuff. We need to be completely done with these crazy solutions that purport to do the same job while using no energy. I mean, what is actually the point of energy? It's to serve the human population. So what does that mean? It means granting everyone a better way of life. That saying that, just saying that, the idea that saying that is controversial now tells you all you need to know about where we're headed with this regulatory beast that has seized control of our manufacturing. If we don't stop this and dramatically reverse this trajectory, a reckoning is coming. And the government could end up reversing all the mechanical progress of the last century and doing it by force. That's not an exaggeration anymore. We can be proud of technology, but apps and digital doodads don't wash our clothes or dishes. The digital world's fun, but it doesn't amount to anything if the physical world all around us is collapsing. So there's my serious part for today. All right, now we're going to get into some real money talk, okay? Got two topics here. One is how to know if somebody grew up poor. And the other one is ways to really save money. So I know that I have some quirks and tendencies that are because I was severely without money during a period in my life. And so I think this list is good for if you see somebody doing stuff like this, you can tell they either grew up poor or at one point in their life they were extremely poor. Okay, so you ready? All right, here we go. First one is taking free stuff with you. You know, I mean, free food, yeah, put it in the pocket. You know, free soap and in a Holiday Inn. Yeah, well, we need that soap. It keep us from buying soap. End up in a drawer full of soap. But you know, that kind of tendency is like, hey, this is free. You know, this I could get this and I wouldn't have to buy a meal. You know, I tend to do that. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I do. I tend to do that. All right, here's one. Having trouble buying nice things. If you get kind of bamboozled about that, I don't know that, well, I do a little bit, but, you know, I told you about these friends we have that have a place in Jackson Hole. They have 4 or 5 other houses too, and they have a big jet. But we were sitting around talking, and the wife said something about going and buying some kind of meat at some kind of grocery store, and she sent her husband there to buy it, and he came back without it because he said, I ain't paying that much for meat. I mean, and I'm like, hey, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. Because I look at stuff sometimes and I have to reason myself into it. Like, you know, I remember last summer seeing watermelons for $8. I mean, I'm not paying $8 for a watermelon. That's crazy. I'm not paying $8 for a watermelon, so I just go without a watermelon. But if I think about it, you got this big thing that can feed 10 people for 2 days for $8. I mean, but I'm not paying $8 for watermelon. That's stupid. Chris Gold says that his mom says that if it's free, you take two. I hear you. I'm kind of that way. How about this? You can tell somebody has been real poor or grew up poor if they have backups to their backups. You know, running out of stuff can give you some anxiety if you've ever had experience running out of stuff. And so a lot of people make sure they have backups to what they have, and then they have backups to those backups just to make sure they won't have to go without. You know, and do you know what we call that in our family? Because I'm definitely guilty of that. I mean, living without anything for a while in my life evidently has severely affected me. Because Polly asked me one time, I bought 20 pairs of underwear. And Polly says, 20 pairs? I said, I am rich in underwear. I am rich in underwear. And then there was a time, we'd be looking for light bulbs, and then somebody would buy a little 3-pack of light bulbs, and then several months later you're looking for light bulbs. So I went to Home Depot, and when I came home, I said, we are rich in light bulbs. I mean, we got them in our attic, yeah. And, kindling, lighter wood, you know what I'm talking about, kindling. I am rich in kindling. I have 2 55-gallon garbage cans full of kindling. It ain't gonna get too cold for me. But that's what we say. Polly and I go overboard and get a lot of something. We go, I am rich in toothpaste or whatever it is, And so, but I do tend to, and sometimes I'll be in a store and they'll look at me and they go, are you okay? Well, yeah, I know I have 10 bottles of NyQuil, but I can afford it, and I don't want to be without it. And, or just, there's been, I do that a lot. I do that a lot with a lot of stuff. When we went up to Jackson Hole, I took the hand warmers, hand warmer things, and Polly's pawing through and goes, how many of these things do you have? I said, that isn't even 25% of what I have at home. She said, why do you have it? I said, we hunt, we fish, we go outdoors. Who knows when you might need it, but I am rich in hand warmers. I will not run out of hand warmers. Okay, so here's another one. You can tell somebody's been poor in their life when they save everything. I mean, if you have a history of going without things, you might not want to let go of much. And people with a history of being poor, you kind of start to hoard items because you're afraid to throw something away and not have what you need when you need it. Polly says I'm a hoarder. And I don't mean to be a hoarder, but I see something and I go, if I throw that away, man, I'm liable to figure out a use for this, or I'm liable to have to go buy this. And so, I got places that I put stuff. This is weird to me, Matthew, that I'm doing this one and that every single one of them are me. And this is one that my wife says is rude, and this is me. People with money rarely talk about it, but poor people or people who've been poor in their life often talks about this. and that is talking about prices. If somebody gets a compliment on their shoes, for example, they may talk about the price of them and the sale that they got and how much they saved getting those shoes. And I do that. And I'll see something and Polly will, and I'll say, hey, what kind of shirt is that? Where'd you get that? And Polly says, don't do that. That's rude. And I'm like, well, if I don't know where they got it, how am I going to know where to go get it? And how much was that? And I will invariably, I'll come home with something, and I'll tell Polly and boys how much it was. Like, I got this for this. I'm real proud of it, but I don't know. I guess that describes me. Here's one, and this is me too. And Polly fights me on this. If you go to somebody's house and you find a bunch of Cool Whip bowls in their cabinet or jelly jars that they're drinking out of, keeping disposable containers. When you buy a pint of crab or a pint of oysters, man, those lids fit on there snugly. And you save this. We can use this for something. And Cool Whip, you have leftover butter beans in the summer, put them in a Cool Whip thing, put them in the refrigerator, and there's we have a couple of jelly jars that I refuse to let Polly throw away, and sometime late at night, Polly and I will have a glass of wine, and she can't stand it, but she'll have this nice wine glass, and I'll drink it out of a jelly jar. And I really do it because it drives her nuts. That's really why I do it. But I like having the jelly jars. I don't have a Flintstones jelly jar, but I know that they used to make them, and we used to drink out of them. Now, this is a little extreme, but I do this too. Reusing plastic bags. It's like if you got a Ziploc bag and pour something out, and it's clean. Grocery bags, take home grocery bags, you just throw them away. Not me. I put them in a drawer. Who knows? We might need those grocery bags. I might want to start my own grocery store, and I'll be ahead of the game right then. Now this is one that is really weird. But people who grew up poor, or they had a real poor time in their lives, hoard change. And, because people with poor background, they often want to know that they have money. Any money, just in case. Banks can close. And this can lead to having sizable jars full of change in a closet somewhere. I have 6 or 7 full jars. I'm rich in change. Quarters, dimes, nickels, pennies. There was some birthday, I think it was Austin's 18th birthday, that I gave him one of my jars. And to my dismay, he immediately turned it into paper money. You should keep that for your future. All right, here's one. Eating low quality foods. As an adult, much of the taste of our foods formed in childhood. And people who grew up eating bologna sandwiches and a lot of mac and cheese kind of develop a taste for it. And, for this highly processed stuff. And Polly and I, we eat pretty well. But when we want to splurge, ain't nothing like a fried bologna sandwich, man. with toast and mustard, mayonnaise on it, piece of cheese, processed cheese. I think it may not be good for you, but sure is good. And that comes definitely from our childhoods. And here's the last of the you can tell you're poor or came from poor stock or whatever. And that is keeping stuff till the very end. Like that shampoo bottle, keeping it to the very end and adding water to it in the shower and pouring it over you to get all the shampoo out of there. And, to have mustard, which costs like $1.29 for a big bottle, and just shake it down to the very last piece of muss in there. I do that. Okay. Now, I went on the internet. Here's our last list for today. I went on the internet to find what were the top 10 kind of extreme ways to save money. These are ways that not everybody would do. Now, I got to say, 8 of the 10 are extreme. But the last 2, if I hadn't, with my own research, proven that people actually do it, I probably wouldn't have added the last 2. But here we go. Top 10 list of extreme ways to save money. Number 1 is go vegetarian. Which I've done. I don't know if you know that or not, but I am a vegetarian. Not real serious about it. I still eat pork and beef. The vegetarians, that thing kind of gets to me because they're just too proud of it. They talk about it all the time. It's like there are 3 people you really don't want to be around a lot, and that's a new Christian, a new Amway distributor, and a vegetarian, because they're just going to talk about it all the time. And you'll be in there and a vegetarian go, I haven't eaten a hamburger in a year. And I'm like, well, I hadn't eaten cauliflower in a year either, but I don't brag about it. God. Okay, so number two way to save money is to cut your own hair. What was that?
It sounded like the drum roll from the ending song, the Professional Noticer theme.
Oh, okay. Well, cut your own hair. Anybody out there cut their own hair? You do? Do you really? So do I. I cut my own hair. I really do. I've got a Flowbee. You know what I'm talking about? Thing that, like, with the vacuum cleaner and the clippers, yeah. When the boys were little, they used to hate going to get their hairs cut. I say hairs cut because you wouldn't want to just go get one cut. While you're at the barber, cut them all. But they used to hate it. And so we had a friend visit the house who was like this, like a senator, and his wife. And she said, at some point she said, I need to get home and cut Bob's hair. And I'm like, you cut his hair? It looked great. I said, you cut his hair? She said, oh yeah. I said, hey, how did you learn to cut hair? She said, well, I do it with a Flowbee. And I'm like, what's a Flowbee? She said, the thing you used to see on TV, the vacuum thing that has the clippers up in it, and you vacuum up the hair at a certain length. And I'm like, get out of here. She said, oh, yeah, Bob is so serious about that thing that he keeps an extra one because he's afraid they're going to go out of business. And so I was like, really? Okay, well. And so we got one, and it was easy cutting the boy's hair with it. Well, then there was one day I had to go to New York. I was going to be on CNN or Fox or something. And so I was going to go the next day and and I had to have a haircut. My hair was really long, shaggy. And so I called, and the guy, it wasn't even open, I'm like, do I dare do this? And so I got that Flowbee and got the right length, and I did my whole hair, and I went to New York, and nobody said a word about it. So I thought, okay, I don't like taking the time to go get a haircut either. And I spent 12 years ago, and I've cut my own hair ever since. So, Wes Hampton. Wes Hampton is the high tenor for the Gaither vocal band. I told Wes about it. They've saved a fortune. They have 5 boys, and so they've saved a fortune in haircuts. So, you can get a haircut now. It's $15 or $20. So, anyway, all right, here's number 3. This is a suggestion from extreme people saving money. Buy a whole cow. Now, I'm assuming that they don't mean a whole live one. Okay, I'm assuming that they mean... Now, Sonia, you give me a thumbs up. Have you done that? See, I would think that you wouldn't save that much money buying a whole cow because you'd have to spend $3,000 on freezers.
I like that it's 2 different extremes. They're like either don't eat any meat or buy so much you don't know what to do with it.
On the same list. No red meat or a whole cow, one or the other. I found this one really odd. Reusing paper towels. There are people who put their paper towels in a basket and at the end of the day run them in their clothes dryer and then lay them out to use again. I guess it works, but is the time? I don't know, because my time's worth something. How about make your own toothpaste? I looked at this and it was like baking soda and some kind of like peppermint stuff. And it seemed to me that the stuff you would buy to make your own toothpaste was about the same price as just buying toothpaste or stealing it from a hotel. We all can do that. Remember, that's on the other list. Now, this is one I definitely understand, and that is eat before grocery shopping. Because, man, if I go to the grocery store hungry, I'm getting a lot of stuff that I wouldn't normally get. And most of it's going to have to be fried. How about start a garden? That's a good one. That's a good one for a couple of reasons, Get rid of some anxiety, get some fresh food. Start a garden. I also liked hunt and fish. I don't know how much money it saves because, you're buying the clothes and the ammunition, the gun, the hand warmers, and the no scent stuff, and the boots, and the special laundry detergent to wash your clothes in so they don't smell, and special dryer sheets so they don't smell. And I mean, you know, you go, look, I got this deer meat. This deer meat is free, or it's like $90 a pound, one or the other. We do enjoy having that meat, though. We enjoy having that. You know, venison is twice the protein of beef and zero fat, and so I think you probably save a lot of money fishing, but I don't know how much money. Well, you can save a lot of money freshwater fishing. You ain't gonna save a lot of money saltwater fishing, because there's just a lot to that. Okay, here are the last two. These are the two that I kind of continued to research to find out, making sure somebody wasn't faking it, that this really happened. There is a group of people, evidently, that they organize themselves to take left behind food at restaurants before the waiter or waitress can take it off the table. When somebody has gone to the, gone to the front desk to pay, they've left their table. That I read an interview with this one lady that she would sit and scope it out so that there were like 3 tables that she could get up, head for the door, and she had like a grocery bag or something, and she would just go piece of chicken, piece of fish, piece of beef, piece, all the rolls, and out the door. I mean, I don't know how sick you'd get eating after somebody that you don't even know who they are. But anyway, that is one of what I call the extreme ways of saving money, is taking leftover food. Okay, now, what you have seen as extreme and what we have described as extreme, this one takes the cake. And I really kind of hate to end the day on this. Matt's going, oh, this is pretty disgusting, but this is on the list. Stop using toilet paper. Now, I watched an interview with a lady named Kay Hashimoto, who was interviewed by the Daily Mail. And we're not talking about going from 2-ply to 1-ply. We're talking about no toilet paper. Kay Hashimoto does not buy toilet paper. She substitutes toilet paper with soap, water, and her hands. And if that makes you queasy, her actual quote from the show is too gross for me to even repeat. And she'll fill a mustard bottle with soapy water and squirt, like, all right, it's just like this, like, homemade mustard bidet. But this is the craziest part of it. With a straight face, she said, "Do you know how much I save? Do you know how much I save? I save $6 a month." A month. $6 a month. Wow. That's just a little too much for me. But that's pretty much our show for today. End it with no toilet paper. I mean, it seems like we ought to be able to end it with collie puppies or something, you know. Let's use that as the last way to save money. Get your dog from the pound. You know, we have 2 new cats. You know, I'm not a cat person, and I can't believe, besides Twinkle and Smoke, that we now have Stevie and Bubbles. They're a stupid name for cats. Stevie and Bubbles. They're both female cats. But we have them, they're outdoors, and we have them because of the pygmy rattlers around here. And cats will take care of those pygmy rattlers. And, you know, if a poisonous snake bites a cat, it's just a cat. So I shouldn't say that. I should not say that. You know, I mean, you wouldn't want your dog to get bit, but it's a cat. We've learned through the years that if you're going to have good killer cats, these are working cats. These aren't pet cats. These are working cats. And but we've found through the years that if you're going to have good working cats, you got to have females, not the males. And it was funny how we found that out. We had one cat, this big old cat named Figaro, and most of these cats, I mean, Twinkle and Smoke, you can't really pet them. I mean, you know, you can kind of pet Smokey just a little bit, you know, but you can't pick them up. And so these new kittens, it's kind of odd because you can kind of pet them, but for the most part, you know, these are working cats. These are working cats. They've got lives, they've got families, they're getting paid, and so they're not into, you know, being petted or anything. But Figaro, this big old male cat, you know, you could just like play with him like a stuffed animal, you know, and you scrub him up. And so Mark, the UPS man, was over one day, and he said, Figaro's a good cat. And I said, yeah, you know, he doesn't do anything. And Mark said, well, of course not. I said, what do you mean, of course not? He said, he's a male cat. I said, what does that got to do with anything? He said, hadn't you ever watched National Geographic? He said, the male lions just lay around. It's the females that hunt. And then when the females get something, the males come and eat it. And I thought, every male cat we have ever had does not kill anything. They just kind of lay there, you know. So ever since then, we've only had female cats because these are working cats. I'm not a cat lover. Don't think of me as a cat lover. I'm a cat employer. Okay. Well, I think that's it until Thursday. Hope you have a great Valentine's Day. We've the podcast that came out today, which you can find on andyandrews.com if you don't get it delivered to your email. The podcast came out today is a Valentine's story called Dying for a Valentine's Date that I wrote, and I'm telling the story. So anyway, happy Valentine's Day tomorrow, and we'll see you Thursday. Bye-bye.